records. Smell the cover, read all the verses. Tell me about your favorites on Vinyl and Vision.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning into the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. Tonight's guest is Nick Ryder of the band AdapterAdapter. What you're currently listening to is the first track off their latest release, which is a 2-song EP, simply entitled Give Up the Ghost and Hex XX. It's available on Bandcamp for streaming or for download. I didn't know Nick until I met him to do this episode, but I had researched his band, I found them online, and I listened to a lot of his music, and it's great. They are genuinely creating some pretty cool and authentic, psyched out garage rock, garage blues rock. Nick is very talented and he's very knowledgeable in a number of different realms of music. So it was a pretty interesting conversation that we had. I was trying a couple of different things tonight, so bear with me. That's trying to do a whole different type of format for the show, actually, and so Nick's going to be my premier guest for the new format. Trying to make them a little shorter. The video has no introduction; just kind of gets right into the show, right into the interview. I chopped it up a lot video-wise. Even this audio stream is going to be a little choppier than normal. I actually went on location to his place, to his home and studio, home/studio, I guess I can say. And it was really cool up in Norton, Mass. And so I tried to incorporate some of the element of the on-scene videos I was taking of he and I kind of walking the premises, walking the compound that it is that they live on. So it's a really kind of cool place, and try to kind of grasp some of that feel of kind of where he was coming from exactly. So tune into the video, please. Go check it out on YouTube. And yeah, enjoy this episode. Please, folks, do the things that you do with the internet. If you can send us some likes on the Instagram and the Facebook, I'd appreciate it. Subscribe to the audio stream and the video stream. Do the commenting, the liking, the sharing, all those things. Enjoy, and thanks. It's your amplifier. Yeah. You're only going to ruin your own amplifier. I don't want you to do that either, so.
Hey. Well, at least my room is clean-ish, right?
Yeah, man. Dude,
I have a floor that's visible.
You have all your music, stacked up. That's probably the thing that would ruin it the most, the thing that would make the biggest mess, It's good to have organization with your music.
I don't own any, of everything I own, my music takes up the most space. More than my gear is my CDs and my records, and where do I put them all? Because I don't use drawers the way
that's not
other
even clothes in
do.
there. Cool.
But that drawer doesn't have clothes in it. It only has DVDs and movies. That's all the clothes I own right there.
It's up there on the shelf. Hey, man, whatever works. That's cool. You got a lot of music. I didn't realize that you had some in storage here hiding.
And those are all box sets up there.
Yeah, I see.
I used to have more of a system and now, as I have so many, I have a system that only really makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's usually where it tends to go.
Yeah.
I'm
only getting to that place where I'm finally losing something here and there, and wow, you lost something that it's there. you gotta find it.
Did you catalog anything at any point?
Not really, because it takes so long.
Right. Oh yeah.
And it's I don't know, when you have this many, I haven't even done a count in a long time. I think the last time I did a count was a decade ago, when I had 2,000 something.
Oh.
So with what I've sold and bought, I probably have closer to 4,000 altogether. It doesn't always look like it, but it's weird how packed in they are.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm not going to say anything about the CDs as far as being a vinyl show. You have good vinyl.
I know. I definitely don't have as many.
Yeah.
But I was always more selective, and I remember like a decade ago when vinyl was kind of coming back, there were bands I listened to, like Sun, who I showed you, or like Nunslaughter in particular, who were doing a lot of vinyl-only releases. And since I bought physical media, I was getting like kind of, well, that's a bummer. Like, I want to get that release. I remember like Discharge, one of my favorite bands, did a split 7-inch with MG15, and I couldn't get it because there was no CD.
Yeah.
And I remember when I finally bought my first record player, I like had my list pretty much of like, I'm buying this because these are all the records I can't get on CD.
Uh-huh.
And I started with those, and for a while I kind of kept it to that because a lot of labels are still like that, where certain releases are kind of catered to a specific format, and not everything comes out on multiple formats. Or it might, but I've just noticed, like, I think it's kind of a trend with record labels.
Right.
To, like, you kind of limit things.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed tape is coming back, too. And there are tape-only labels again, and I'm like, that's a shock to me.
Yeah, that's
I don't
crazy.
even have a tape player. With all the stuff I have, I'm like, I got rid of my tapes.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't suggest it at this point, only because you'd just be building to the collection, which, I mean, that's not horrible, I guess, but do you have a tape player?
Not currently. Like, for a while I did have a bunch of weird tapes and, like, stuff that I couldn't get otherwise, but it's not my favorite thing to listen to. I mean, I do think they look really cool, and I liked them when I was a kid, because that's kind of what was around. But I do think that there are some reasons that some formats go away on a bigger, like, scale, and some kind of stay tried and true.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Tapes kind of replaced vinyl, but I don't think they replaced vinyl at all. And vinyl kind of stuck around after tapes went away.
Right.
So I kind of think that says about the quality of, like, vinyl as a format.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do like some tape. I like the accessibility of cassette tapes, because, you know, those are plentiful in cars and stuff like that. And I've never had a really good 8-track player. Like, I have one now, and like every time I put a tape in, I'm just like, it might eat this. You know, and
So
I'm just like, I might not hear it. Yeah. Yeah, I have stopped trying, basically.
I had a buddy who had a reel-to-reel player, and he had, like, ZZ Top's Trace Hombres on reel-to-reel.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'd never even seen anything like that. I was like, who bought these?
I know, I actually have a reel-to-reel player, too.
Wow.
And that's cool, too. I mean, I think that quality is good. It's just they're all a little different, you know, and it's like, and it depends on the quality of your stuff, because like my tape player sucked, and like it started to die, actually, like the gears in it, so it was slowing down. So just slowly, by little, I was like losing the actual speed of the tape, and it sounded distorted, it sounded weird, you know.
Well, I think that's kind of my problem with tapes versus like CDs, or even like records. If you're careful the way I am, or how people should handle like a CD. Like, I have CDs. The oldest things I own are CDs, because I took care of them. And like a lot of my record, like if I bought a record new, it probably doesn't have too many scratches on it. But like tapes are kind of like, how many times are you going to listen to it? Because at a certain point, it's just not going to sound like it did anymore.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of going to have something that doesn't really work like the way it did. Not that vinyl doesn't get worn out, but I mean, for instance, we're gonna play a record from the 60s, and I didn't own it for like most of its lifetime, but somebody took decent enough care of it.
Well, you know what, I also wanted to make sure that we talked about your band, because we haven't said
I'm in a band.
We haven't said peep about AdapterAdapter yet. So, and by the way, that you're
about someone else's music.
Yeah, no, and yours, because I really like what you have, because we actually just met through Instagram. I found your page, and I listened to your music, and I was just like, wow, these guys are awesome.
Well, thanks.
Would you say that it's fair to, or is it fair to say that you guys are a like psycho garage rock band?
Well,
is that?
See, that's like a kind of a new one.
Okay.
And I like it because honestly, a lot of people say a lot of different things, and I was
like
kind
what?
of shocked. Well, because like I always thought we were just a blues rock band, and like that was kind of like I would just say, yeah, we're like blues rock, and people would often say that I undersold myself or what I did. And I have heard like a lot of people call us blues metal or punk blues. I had a drummer who's one of his relatives came, and he said to me after we played, "Oh, you know, I never heard a punk band that had a harmonica." And I was like, "Cool." But it is kind of funny, like some people, and I know some blues fans can be kind of elitist, and honestly, like true blues fans I noticed are almost the only people we've played with who really didn't kind of dig us.
Oh, yeah.
And the only times I've seen people or had people genuinely heckle or put fingers in their ears was at blues shows.
Yeah.
And I was kind of shocked because, like, I wanted to be a blues singer.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that. Psycho, garage rock. We actually, our newest single got licensed to a garage rock label in Turkey recently. And they kind of specialize in stuff that's really wacky and aggressive, I noticed. But it was called, I hope I say it right, it was Kadafan Contact Records from Istanbul, Turkey. And I asked him, what does your label name mean? And he goes, oh, it kind of roughly translates to like crazy or nuts or stuff like that, and those are the bands I try to get. So I was kind of like,
well, so you're in good company, you know? That's kind of fun. I'd like to be in that company every now and then.
Well, I just thought it was like, well, if a couple of people in Europe can get into us, like, why not? And again, it was kind of like, well, it was interesting someone from so far away kind of got a hold of us somehow and kind of thought we were part of this crazy garage rock thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've just kind of noticed a lot of people kind of do have their own, I don't know, like, people have so much access to information these days that but they also kind of still have a way to, everybody hears things differently. And people do kind of like, well, people say this is this, but I kind of think it sounds like this.
Yeah. Oh,
and like, I'm always like, I know I was a little more of an elitist when I was a kid because I came from metal, and you'd be like, oh, it's not death black metal, it's black death metal, you idiot. But I'm not really like that now. And I kind of like, I don't know, I remember hearing, it was weird to hear a guy talk about music who, he said, oh, I don't know if you've heard of, I really like a band called Fish. And it's like, Fish is a huge band. So it's kind of like, I knew he just kind of like, it was funny to hear somebody talk about Fish as if like you hadn't heard of them. And I just thought it was like, yeah. And he was like, you know, a lot of people say they're like a jam band, but I kind of think they're just rock. And I was like,
cool.
I kind of thought it was cool because it was like, wow, like this guy clearly doesn't hang out with fish heads. He just likes this music.
Yeah.
And it's not like about some extended jam to him or like it was just kind of interesting that he was, I don't know. Everybody hears it a little different.
Yeah.
But I would never be like, oh, you like Fish? It's rock. It's just rock.
It's rock. Yeah, 24/7 is just rock. Yeah, Fish. To speak to your comment earlier about the playing with blues and you feeling like that was where you were the least accepted, blues is kind of like a purist type genre.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part, I mean, there's a lot of strong, blues guys that are just like, there's a right way to do it. Like, you can't do it another way.
It's true.
Yeah.
I've noticed that the guys we play with who are in bands, though, have always been cool to me. It's just kind of the fans sometimes. And not a lot of them, but I think that's kind of why we appeal to punks and metalheads, because we have that aggression and like the kind of bit of darkness in the image, but we've always gone down really well at like bars or clubs with kind of like an older crowd who are used to classic rock.
Right.
Because they're used to hearing blues riffs that are heavy.
True.
And we used to play a lot of Canned Heat, and like I did covers of songs I liked that I didn't think people even knew about. And it was usually like the more educated fans who would know, but like at the same time, like if we played like a T-Rex song and we do it really heavy, but like, you know, the older ladies would make their husbands get up and dance with them because it's like they hadn't heard that song in a while.
Yeah, right.
And they weren't scared off by us for having crosses in our logo or singing about this and that.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know, we do kind of have a strange niche, I guess.
That's
and
good.
Nobody thinks we're going to sound like what we do based on how we look, and vice versa, I think.
Right.
I don't know.
So let me just say that this is really cool. I don't know if I'm going to get that on camera or not, but this is one of your releases. This is not your latest release, right?
No. That was a double A-side single we did in 2017. But I'm still really proud of it, and it's still one of my favorite releases we've done on the whole, and I really like both songs that are on it still.
Yeah, no, I listened to them, and they're great songs, and that's kind of why I was starting off saying, would you consider it safe to say that your music is like a, psycho garage rock? Because that's kind of what this record is. It's just an EP.
I think that record was where we've really tried to almost take it over the top as far as like the energy was concerned. And we kind of stripped down the arrangements at the same time. It was my first time playing with Greg Valade on drums, who I had on that recording. And we kind of, we stripped the music back to this really raw, like almost the rawest stuff I think I'd ever made, and the most aggressive. But we kind of doubled, I think, the energy we had. Because, like, I still say Rocket Blaster's one of almost like, my music isn't that complicated. It's kind of more about the energy that I put forth. But Rocket Blaster is like, it's like a song you need like a headband and like gym bands to play, because it's like, there's a bit of athleticism. Yeah. And there's very little space to breathe with how much harmonica and just the speed of it.
It's pretty intricate work for a fast-placed bluesy song like that.
Yeah. I mean, it took a long time to work up. And actually, the drummer I have now, we've only just kind of started practicing it the last couple of weeks, because it was like I wanted to get it back in the set. And it is one of those things where, like, rather than practice our set at the last couple of practices, we just practiced that song. Like, we've dedicated a couple whole practices to it.
Wow.
Because it's like, there's a lot of little things in there.
That must have been tiring.
When it's all just right, and every little hit is just right, it has that energy. So I think at the next show, we're definitely going to have to break it back out.
Cool. That'd be great. Do you know when that is, your next show, or?
Well, we have a show this Friday, but it's actually a tribute show to the Rolling Stones, and all the proceeds are going to benefit the Amos House, and it's like a bunch of local Providence bands all doing Rolling Stones covers.
Oh, okay.
And I think maybe we get to do some original stuff.
Yeah.
But it's... The funny thing is I didn't actually have to learn any new songs for it. Like, the songs we're going to do is stuff from our normal set. So it was kind of like, well, can we... I was like, can we do blues songs that the Stones were known for doing or made famous?
Oh.
And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay, we don't have to learn any new songs.
That's
so
cool.
We're going to play our normal set.
Yeah. So wait, so when's that happening now, you said?
That's actually this Friday at dusk. And there's a lot of good bands on it, like Queen Anne's Revenge is on it, who are a really cool rock band and good friends of mine. And it's just going to be a lot of, like, good local bands all playing renditions of stuff
tunes
by the Stones. And so it's like, what really isn't to like? I think the stuff we play is probably going to be, like, the least of what people want to hear.
Right. Well, so I feel like that's been happening a lot lately. They had the Nirvana cover song. They had the local bands covered song.
No, it's true. I've been getting asked to do it more and more, and it's kind of like when I do get involved, I try to be the odd man out, like, because I kind of like doing the opposite of what everyone else is gonna try to do. I'm just kind of like have that tendency to be like that. But even like the Misfits are my favorite band, like, of all time, and I did like a they asked me, do you want to do the Halloween Misfits show at the News Cafe? And they were like, you know everything about the Misfits.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And it sounded like a lot of fun. And they were like, well, let us know what songs you want to pick, because we don't want to have overlap. And I was like, I'm not going to pick any songs. Like, I'm going to let everybody else pick all their songs and then make sure none of the stuff I play was anything anybody was even going to think about. And then when I did have my songs, I played them all as slow blues with clean guitar, really quiet, and did like a whole set of Misfit songs like as a real blues singer. And I don't know if anybody's ever done that, but it was kind of like an idea like, well, people want Misfits covers and they want them to sound like the Misfits, and it's my favorite band. So
Right.
I think to me, it's like, I'm going to play the Misfits like it was a blues guy, like one guy, and how
Right.
he would have played those songs like on the Delta.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can see
And it was a lot of fun. And people just kind of looked at me like, okay, because it was, I don't think anybody expected somebody to open the Misfits show with all clean guitar, like
Right.
blues.
Yeah. That's cool, though. I admire that. I mean, you know, to have the balls to even do that, because it's just like,
Thanks.
that's a really kind of strange concept.
I'm the king of strange concepts.
Oh, cool, man. So, what brought you to that point? Like, where did you start listening to music or playing music? Or both?
Well, I've always, like, music's just always been my thing since I was a little kid. Like, I just was always, I loved being in the car and listening to the radio and just,
yeah.
like...
What would you listen to?
Well, my mom was, she's like a product of a child of the 60s, so, like, classic rock. And when I was a kid, it was all of her favorite bands, like Zeppelin and Moody Blues.
But she
And,
was like a rock listener,
yeah.
which is cool.
And it was funny because she didn't really like the blues that much, even though she listened to, like, bluesy stuff. But it was kind of nice because when I started getting into the 60s culture and music myself, I kind of had somebody who was there that could kind of like, well, this is kind of what it was really like, or like,
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to be able to like, hey, I got this album, like, do you
Right.
remember this band? And she'd be like, how are you listening to this? Like, but it's
Right.
kind of like she had good enough taste, and my brothers were into metal. I just always liked having something on, and I mostly liked metal and hard, aggressive music for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of got bit by the blues all of a sudden, like about a decade ago. It's funny because now I notice I've been back listening to the first blues artist that kind of got me into it. Because it's like, well, I've finally been in it long enough that I can I think I'm back where I started.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or at
Unlike
least be able to
the,
appreciate that stuff more now. And
that
even
I think I know a little bit about it, because I didn't know the first thing about the blues.
Oh, yeah.
It was really weird. Like,
I don't think you lived long enough to really appreciate it, right?
No,
That's
I mean, and I always had an ear for stuff that was older anyway. Like, even when I was in school, the punk and the metal I listened to was older. But, I mean, I was in kind of like a death metal band, and I played death metal and listened to 100% aggressive music for so long. And I literally just had a friend go, you need to chill out. Like, you need to buy something different. Like, and he said, like, buy an album by the Black Keys or something. And I didn't even know who they were.
Oh.
But I went and bought Rubber Factory. Like, because I bought so many CDs, I was like, I'll buy a CD by anyone. And it was like, I went and bought it, and knowing nothing about it, and it being nothing like anything I listened to, I was kind of like, whoa, this isn't... I was literally, like, kind of taken aback by it. And I went back to the record store the next day and the day after and would buy anything that had the Fat Possum Records logo on it.
Oh.
So it was kind of like, I didn't know a lot about the blues, and I didn't know if the Black Keys was a blues band or not. But it was weird because by the end of the first week of having 2 of their albums, I was telling people, I'm going to quit playing death metal and form a blues duo. And everybody thought that was really weird. But that's what I did. Like, it took me years, but, like,
Right.
It was like, I'm going to be like these guys someday. It's going to be me
Yeah.
and a drummer, and we're going to play blues. And it was like, you don't play anything like that. And it
Right.
was like, well, it's going to take some time. But I don't know. And a lot of people give me grief about, like, you got into the blues from the Black Keys. That's so, like, Bush League.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm like, well... It's the band that did it for me, and not even just them being on Fat Possum Records, and also that, like, one of the... I mean, I went back and bought anything I could find with their logo on it. And
right.
One of the albums was Cullahoma by the Black Keys, which was an entire album of covers just by Junior Kimbrough. They did a whole album of covers of their biggest influence.
Yeah.
Who was Junior Kimbrough, a guitar player from the Mississippi Hill Country, not like the Delta, but like not knowing anything about the blues. I was like, well, if the Black Keys like Junior, then I'm gonna like Junior.
Probably.
And I kind of went to that hill country style more than the Delta style because a lot of the hill country guys were on Fat Possum, and it was different than 12-bar blues.
Yeah.
Most of the hill country guys do this really heavy, dark, droning, riffy style that was like, to me, was as heavy as metal. And I think that's why I liked it so much.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's kind of where I started, and lately I've been kind of picking up Fat Possum albums that I skipped the first time around.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, it's kind of been that whole cycle.
Yeah.
Which is weird, like, life just kind of happens that way.
So is that all mostly blues stuff, like the blues rock genre?
They mostly focused on like what their version of they thought the blues rock genre was. But they did a lot of other stuff. Like,
I thought
they
so,
even
but
did releases by like Iggy and the Stooges, Andrew Bird.
People
Bird outside of their comfort zone, but like it was a big enough indie label to be well respected, and they're still around.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm a very record label centric person. Like, I tend to find labels I like to support, and then find the bands I like from that, as opposed to like looking up artists. I kind of like find labels, and then see what artists they have. Because you can, like, I don't know, you can get a sense of, I don't know, a lot of record labels have a lot of personality. And Fat Possum was definitely one of those for me.
Yeah, I think any respectable label has a genre that they really kind of cater to.
Yeah,
I mean,
or
if
at least like a niche.
Yeah.
Like, if it's dark, like everything dark and heavy, it doesn't necessarily have to be metal. But if it's like, but if you're putting out records outside of that genre that are kind of dark and heavy, those people might buy that. Like, I don't know. The record label we were on was called Ukulele Horror Records, and it was really bizarre because, like I said, we'd only been a band for a matter of weeks.
Right.
And we had, like, just recorded it. I didn't have any band members, and I asked somebody to fill in on some recordings to have a product to showcase to get band members.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a deal based on that demo, which became the EP. But it was odd because, like, again, I was trying to make what I thought was a blues record, but it still came out pretty heavy and dark. And I mean, it was called Ukulele, like, they had horror in the record label name, and it was a guy who mostly focused on horror-themed releases.
Yeah.
And we weren't really like a horror band or a psychobilly band or like that kind of punk band, but we were on a record label like that.
Right.
And I think it's just because we had, like,
the image.
Our albums kind of, like, if you didn't see the harmonica on it, on, like, all of them, it would almost kind of, like, I mean, I guess they look like metal albums.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, though. So, now, where would you say that you found this record that you chose for tonight?
Oh, well, there's a couple of things I wanted to mention about it, but again, just being super into like the 60s and whatnot, and being really into movie soundtracks, and also like part of what appealed to me about 60s music when I really got into it was the heaviness and the punkiness of it, and being really into punk and metal. I wasn't aware that those terms were around back then, and that there were bands in the 60s that were called punk rock, or that were playing heavy metal. And Riot on Sunset Strip was kind of a potboiler movie to cash in on a trend.
Can I?
Like, there were actual riots on Sunset Strip because of the new, like, psychedelic music. And what's crazy is Peter Fonda, who died yesterday, R.I.P.,
sadly.
I'm a huge fan. He actually got arrested in the Sunset Strip riots.
I read about that,
it's funny that we're talking about this record today because he died yesterday, and I'm wearing my Easy Rider shirt.
Yeah, I know, I saw.
And I actually... I switched our logo on Facebook and Instagram back to our Peter Fonda AdapterAdapter logo in his honor. Because, like, he's had a huge influence on me. Not just his movies, but, like, the music in his movies has influenced my band and, like, the image I wanted.
Yeah.
So it was like, I definitely got to talk about it now. I mean, Peter Fonda got arrested in the real Sunset Strip.
Yeah, which actually, it came out I did a little bit of research on the movie. This came out like 4 months after or 7 months after the riots occurred on the Sunset Strip. So it was like kind of a pretty speedy production, just to like throw the story together.
Definitely. I mean, it was a cash grab, like a total like cashing in on a fad, which was a lot of, I mean, the exploitative nature of 60s culture was kind of like that. Everything was fast. Fast turnaround. And, which is weird because they put out such great stuff. But, like, I mean, that was a movie that was, it was thrown together to cash in on a headline.
Right.
Like, this is what is in people's minds.
Right.
And they associate it with LSD and rebellious music. So we're going to have a whole movie about kids taking acid and rioting at rock clubs.
Right.
And, like, that's pretty punk rock. And it's like the Standells who did Dirty Water, like their 60s proto-punk band, are in it as themselves. And you have the Chocolate Watch Band who are, like, I think one of the best American bands, like, are in it. And, like, it has that weird, I guess the appeal of the movie these days, like, why it kind of held up beyond being, like, a fad was that it caters to people who like rock movies. Yeah. Because it's a movie like almost about great music by accident. Because they were kind of just showing what the strip looked like. But they didn't know that like what they were filming was going to be something people would want to watch 50 years later to be like, this is what club bands looked like in the 60s. And this is what these rock shows were really like. Yeah. And it's pretty wild.
Yeah. I did start watching it. I got about like a quarter of the way through because I didn't have too much time.
It is weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Very, well, American International were kind of known for like low budget.
Right.
And very kind of like a hokiness, but with a weird level of grit and like a super offensive sense of like humor. Like, I don't know, it's weird how un-PC things were back then.
Yeah. Hey, not even that long ago.
Yeah, it's true.
You go back like 10 years into some kind of like movie catalog and you're like, you see some weird shit that you're like, they could say that? That was 10 years ago. Like, I thought that was like already a thing.
Things do change fast.
Yeah,
like,
man.
I think that's why things like that are so interesting as like time capsules, because it wasn't that long ago that America was totally different.
Back
and
ass
it's like, this is what it's like if you were a teenager looking to rebel, it's like maybe this is what your life was like if you lived in this location.
Yeah.
And it's not like what teenagers are doing now.
Yeah. No, I gotta admit, it seemed to kind of a little. I was reading I think LA Weekly, to find out a little bit more about the actual riot, and they even said it in their article that it seemed like just a generational hissy fit.
Pretty much.
Which I was just like, yeah, that sounds about right.
It wasn't a real. It wasn't like there was protests going on. It was really just that the kids were all dressing crazy and acting crazy.
Long hairs.
And the music was really aggressive and heavy.
But they were kids, too. It was like teenagers.
It's true.
Like, that was the problem, was just like that they're these teenage people.
Yeah, they're rocking out too hard. Right. And, like, fighting in the club. And, like,
and so cops would arrest these people for
that
it.
Weren't even necessarily illegal yet. Like, LSD was still legal in most parts of America in 1966. Yeah. And that's, like, a crazy thing, because, like, kids were getting their heads smashed in for, like, tripping on acid and going to rock concerts. And technically there wasn't anything against the law with that.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, well, I guess because it started off innocently, because, like, from the way the movie portrays it, is that, these are these 17-year-old kids trying to just go out, like, to downtown, basically, to have a good time.
Like, I think they used the name of real clubs.
Like, the Pandora's Box.
But I think they used another club to fill in as Pandora's Box. Right. But the weird thing is Pandora's Box, the real club, is in another movie that's kind of like that called Psych Out, which was like, again, kids take acid, and that's a weird one because it's all about Jack Nicholson taking acid and trying to play guitar with Strawberry Alarm Clock, like of Incense and Peppermints fame. Yeah. And he does. So it's weird to see Jack Nicholson with a clip-on ponytail on acid playing guitar for Strawberry Alarm Clock, like in Austin Powers or something.
Hey, I'm gonna take one break.
Go for it.
Idea. I was like, I want to get in the barn, and you need to take a photo of me, like, in the barn. And this is the same barn that is on the cover of our most, like, recent single, which it was just right before. I actually came out here and, like, I'm not a photographer, but I knew there was an album cover in our yard somewhere.
I'm
And I
gonna
ended
get
up
in
getting it like that day.
I'm gonna get in that thing.
It's funny because
how dangerous is it to get to the door?
well, it was a little less grown in, but like I never even went inside. But I had to. The actual entrance like is over on the side, and I just had to
Right.
pull the vines apart to go inside it. But
But
it was
it's-
kind of like.
But it's creepy as fuck in there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's gonna fall down.
So that's why it was a creepy photo, because it was like, who took the photo? Because usually all my Instagram photos are like, I took it. But it was
Okay,
like
yeah.
of me in the barn from here.
In some old country.
Let me think about that for a second. Let me just enjoy
Hey
this.
there, old man sitting on the lonesome road. Go
I
back
think this
to
is the
your
only song this girl ever
cottage.
recorded.
Go back to your
Deborah
home.
Travis, I don't think she appears on any
You
other
have a
recordings.
loved one.
Like,
Oh,
I
yeah?
think this is her one
All
off.
your
And it's a really good song.
But she
It's pretty.
lives
I listened to this
in
record one
some
time
old
through the streaming
country.
to prepare for tonight, and
Why
yeah, I
are
was
you
gonna.
weeping?
It obviously stood out to me because being the only acoustic song for the most part. There's a couple of other like poppier songs on the soundtrack.
Different because it's like an album about a city, and this was the one kind of getaway from that song, I think.
Across the
Yeah.
sea,
Like with the opposite vibe.
and she
Right.
lives
Well, plus all the.
in
I mean, it's a
some
very
old
like
country.
beatnik heavy film. You know,
True.
so it's just like it's all about the bebopping, like whatever if I can call that style of dancing they do, the jitterbug. No, not even that. What the fuck am I thinking?
Why do
But
you
yeah,
sit
I was confused by whether it was a mod or it's beatniks.
Mod,
I guess
well,
really
see, they
after
kind
the
of bled
hippies.
over. It's funny because a lot of people ask now, like, what is mod? And it's like, mod was kind of weird.
But mod was
It
like what
mixed
the
a lot
Who
of
started.
different styles. Sort of, yeah, and like
The
even
guys
the
on
Yardbirds
scooters.
were seen as like having
Yeah.
a heavy mod style. But it also kind of lent itself to like psychedelia. Because like mod kind of incorporated like rhythm and blues, but they also like soul and they like reggae, and they also were playing music that was really aggressive. Like
Yeah.
the next band, Chocolate Watch Band, were considered as being a mod band on the West Coast.
Yeah.
But because they're on West Coast America, they incorporated American psychedelia and aggression, and that's kind of was why the Chocolate Watch Band stood out. And like, and having that weird band name.
Yeah.
Weird factoid: a lot of '60s bands with odd names
Are
took their
usually
name from
awesome.
the Watch Band, because as much as the Watch Band aren't super well known, they were kind of like the coolest band in California, and they had a strong live following because
Yeah.
they were just awesome. I mean, you can hear them; they're like as good as the Rolling Stones or something. But like, they picked a super weird band name, and then you had like the Strawberry Alarm Clock, who said they got it, the idea from the Watch Band, and the Jefferson Airplane, and
Yeah.
like the Red Crayola, and like it was that became like Buffalo Springfield, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Like it became like a trend to have like a wacky band name.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense, and it kind of originated with the Chocolate Watch Band, which is odd, but
Yeah.
California was where like the trends were happening, and the Watch Band kind of avoided chart success, but they were a big band in California, and that's why they're still around. I'm always a big champion for the Watch Band. Not a lot of people know them, but I think they're like our American Stones.
Yeah. I'm not familiar, honestly, so I have to look into it.
It's odd, and I was like, Chocolate Watch Band? That's a dumb band name.
It is, but
But
I
it's
mean,
like, it worked for them.
well, it seemed like
Somehow.
yeah, like you were saying, there was a whole generation of that because I was doing the research for this record on Discogs, and they offer you suggestions for whatever you look up. And there were these other weird '60s band names, and I was like, I don't know who these bands are. I was like, maybe I should look into it.
They all have like a very strange.
Yeah.
And
Like-
it's a lot of the. Like
Yeah.
the Tombstones, the others,
Right.
the these.
The one I saw was it the? I'm gonna get this wrong. Was it the? I gotta look it up. I gotta look it up because it was so funny.
I wonder if I have one of their albums. I have the longest one that I'm into is the West Coast Pop Art Experimental Band, which is a real 60s band. And they actually had a song in Isle of Dogs, which is like a Wes Anderson movie from not too long ago.
Oh yeah.
But that's how I got into them. I always thought that song was by the Kinks, but I was like, it's the West Coast pop art experimental band. Like, what kind of? That's a pretty big mouthful.
Yeah. How funny that you would confuse it with the Kinks too. That seems fitting. Right?
Well, it sounded because it kind of had that sound and that style.
Well, because as the director of that movie, what's his name, Wes Anderson.
Yeah, he puts Kink stuff in like everything.
He
That's
was
why I
gonna-
think I just assumed it was that.
I think the entire Rushmore soundtrack was originally supposed to be all Kinks
That is
songs.
true.
Yeah.
Because he dresses like them. Like, he dresses like one of the Kinks, and
Yeah.
he's an academic, but also a punk.
Right. So I'm actually trying to determine like the value of your record, and because I didn't get to do too much research when I was home this past week, because unfortunately shit's been going on. But yeah, I would say that your record here, on average, probably sells for around like $17 to $28 right now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so the quality of yours, I would say, that's probably on the $19 range, maybe, because it's like really good shape. It looks really like clean and glossy.
I've also played it, like, and honestly, like, over 100 times myself.
Yeah,
Like, it's been my favorite record since I got it, and it's always like, nobody's ever heard of this fucking weird movie.
No,
or this,
you're
or
right.
Any of these weird bands. People usually know, like, Love That Dirty Water. So people know the standouts, but not anything else.
right.
Cool, I'm gonna sell it and buy another one.
Yeah, there's no reissues. That's it, man. There's
I
only
know. They have a CD, and I've almost bought the CD version just to save on keeping like the vinyl in quality, but
yeah.
I don't know.
So what's your position on the digital download, the
Well,
streaming?
So, I never really downloaded music that much. Like, even when it was, like, new, like Napster and this and that. Like,
Oh,
I had
yeah.
friends who did, and that's how, like, I would get, like, CDs back then. It's like, hey, can you make me this CD?
Right.
And you'd get, like, all different sources and all different quality tracks. But, I've just always been a very, like, hard copy oriented person. And I've always been into collecting, like, physical music.
Yeah.
And it's only in like recent years where I buy so much stuff that I'm like, well, I should really start listening to more stuff online. So I do like stream a lot, and
Just to experiment.
I like Bandcamp a lot,
Yeah.
just as like because I like how it looks. It's pleasing to the eye,
Yeah.
and like you get kind of like the as far as like a website goes, I think it's like having like digital liner notes and just like the interface is cool. But I find that it's like if I stream an album like 5 or 6 times, I usually end up buying it.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, you like it enough, right?
Yeah. So,
Which-
but it's kind of like that's kind of more what I use now because I'm like, well, you can't buy everything, and I kind of like going into a lot of things blind. I buy a lot of stuff without ever listening to the band. Like,
Yeah.
Even for a second, like I don't know. I like to have like the whole first experience that first time. But you kind of gotta, like, if you're gonna be selective, it's good to actually know what you're getting yourselves into a little bit.
Yeah. Right.
I don't
So-
buy a lot of stuff that I've been like, wow, this sucks.
Well, then you have like this knack for just kind of like nailing things just by the cover.
Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, they say, like, you can't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes, like, an album, you kind of can a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good indicator. But again, like, I think it's also, like, a reason a band like mine, like, I don't think our album covers say a lot about the content. Like,
Right.
Or at least
It can be
they
misconstrued.
do in a very different way.
Yeah, like it could just be interpretive, you know?
Some bands do have an image that's kind of like at odds with their style, but can kind of match it too. I
Right.
always love like Black Flag's album artwork because they always have Ray Pettibone album covers, and he has this really odd like almost American Splendor comic style, and you almost wouldn't really know that it was gonna be like, well, at least for a hardcore punk band with that sound, to have a very specific image. Like, I feel like more of their albums look like jazz album covers than punk, if not for like the kind of weird subtext of the images.
Yeah.
But they're all bright colors with like comic book characters on it, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know. I think you can't take that away from them though. Like for them to not have that image would be like kind of strange.
A slight change like that, image-wise even, can just kind of ruin a whole like interpretation for a generation of people. You know,
it's true.
But whatever. Hey, as long as they got their credit, as long as like the songs are out, people are appreciating it. That's all you can really ask for. You know, it's
there are some like famously terrible album covers, but in some cases that's why people bought it, because it looked so weird, or like something like, what, that is on a 12-inch sleeve.
Right. Yeah, man, it's crazy. I like it. Because I appreciate you suggesting this record to me, because I would have never known it had you not.
Well, I'm like waiting to find like somebody who's heard of it. Like I haven't like met a music fan yet who's like, oh, you know, Riot on Scissor Strip, Chocolate Watch Band.
Maybe some of the bands on this record, but then like the movie too. Like I hadn't heard about the movie, didn't know about the soundtrack, obviously. So
there's not a lot of like super aggressive music fans like me who delve so deep into 60s stuff. I mean, at least from people like I've met, but I tend to look at it from a different viewpoint, I think.
Yeah.
Because, like, to me, a lot of it's really heavy, and that was kind of why I liked it.
I think so. I think it's actually the type of, like, the style of the recording, like, what the kind of technology they had to record back then. Like, that's kind of why all of it sounds so kind of, like, heavy and almost distorted naturally,
well,
because...
if you were turning the amp up really loud and nobody had recorded that yet, it was going to sound like... blaring, and that might make it heavier.
Right.
Like one of my favorite albums, Blue Cheer, Bin Sabus Eruptum, they said that their debut was the first metal album, because it was from 1968, and they were a power trio that were playing Marshall stacks on full volume, and they refused to turn them down. So their album sounded like shit. Like, it was the muddiest thing anybody had ever heard, and it sounded awful. But because they had a record that didn't sound like anything, they had a top 20 hit and album.
Yeah.
And it was the heaviest thing anybody had ever heard. But
it sounds pretty heavy.
It was this blaring, loud mono explosion, and it was like, you're not supposed to record an amplifier that's loud.
Right.
And it was like, well, we're going to do it anyway, because we're not going to turn down, because, I mean, they actually had before The Who did, they had the Guinness World Record as the world's loudest band, Blue Cheer.
Yeah.
They're like another band, like, that's a funny thing about metal, is like, I thought I knew everything about metal, and then I found out that a 60s band is credited with being the first metal band, and I was like, where have I been? I got that album tattooed the 2 days after I bought it, because I was like, everything I knew about metal is wrong. These guys in the 60s were whipping their hair around and playing Marshall stacks and, like, doing double bass, and like it was kind of crazy.
Wow. I wish I could have seen them. That sounds like so much fun.
Well, you could still listen to them though.
Oh yeah, I have one of the records at home actually. It's not the greatest copy, unfortunately.
I have their second album on vinyl, but I was mostly like a CD for them, because the quality is it does make a difference. Actually, like, as to what you said earlier, like, if you were to listen to the mono version of the first Blue Cheer album and the stereo version, it's like a completely different album. It's almost like the recording... I had a stereo copy that I gave to a friend, because I was like... It was his birthday, and I needed something. I was like, yeah, it means a lot to me. And then I bought... The mono edition came back out, and then I had to buy the stereo one again, too, because I didn't realize how different it was going to sound.
Oh.
And it was kind of, like, interesting to have two completely different versions of the same album, where the sound quality is what makes, like, the whole experience different.
Yeah.
Like the mono versus stereo. I actually have a lot of albums like that, because if I like an album enough, I have multiple versions of it.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm gonna have
you
to.
can always change it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go home and check which copy I have. I can't remember if it's a mono or a stereo, but I'm interested in, like, you know.
Is it that album, Vin Sabus Eruptum?
It's yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So did you listen to it before?
Yes, but not on vinyl.
That's cool.
So, I mean, I was familiar with the record. I knew it was highly desirable. Oh, actually, I was looking for it for you.
Oh, yeah, because I
right.
told you.
Yeah,
I remember I was like, I have a bunch of... I was like, I don't even know what albums to pick. I could pick 5 off my tattoos.
Yeah,
the
the 5 that you, like, said to me was this, like... Oh, these are, like, kind of the hardest records to find.
Well, I guess that is, like, a thing with me, though, is I did always like bands that were obscure, and I especially, as kind of like a metalhead elitist, I had a desire to always hear who did this first.
Right.
And it was like, you want to hear who played the first blast beat. It's like,
Right.
who was the first band to use screaming death vocals. And if you're into metal and you go further back, like, that was the weird thing, is it's like, you go before Sabbath and you find Blue Cheer. And it was really weird to me, because I was like, they have all the ingredients. And because they had a hit record, they act like, it's weird because even Cream and Zeppelin claim them as an influence, because they were the first band to be like, everything on 10.
Right.
No compromise. Hit everything as hard as you can. And he screamed all of the vocals, because it's like, you couldn't even sing them loud enough into a mic for them to be heard. So I think it really is like the first example of a band that was like, almost like a gang.
Oh,
They
yeah.
actually, like, I think they blew the PA system on the Tonight Show when they were on it or something, and Steve Allen introduced them on his show as, like, ladies and gentlemen, the Blue Cheer, run for your life, and, like, because he hated rock music.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know
Wow.
why he would even have them on.
Hey, man, you gotta sell the tickets. They put on whatever's selling.
Did you want to play, like, 5 seconds of this one
Oh.
or something like that?
Yeah, man, sure.
It is weird, like, they are a very different kind of record, and it does come with a disclaimer, like, how to treat it,
Yeah.
the fact that it won't work on certain types of players. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to have auto stop. And it's funny because it even shows a picture of my needle, and it's like, a needle like this is not the best one to use. But my other one had a needle like this too, and it still has like kind of a unique experience.
Right.
It's not vinyl.
No.
Like, and it sounds so different than the digital master.
Yeah. Yeah, because I listened to this through Bandcamp.
This one is like thicker and more like almost like boxy.
Sure.
Like it's
sure
almost hard to
does.
separate any of the instruments.
It's
Like has that mono attacking feel.
Well, I'll tell you what. So, because I specifically listened to your download only of this record, and comparing it to what I remember of listening to the digital and listening to this now, granted, this isn't maybe the best system, but still considering we listened to that record from the 60s, comparatively, I'm like, okay, they actually kind of sound like they're the same.
Yeah.
But you're
well,
recording on the digital.
this was recorded in this house too.
yeah, but it sounds great. Like the digital.
I actually recorded this vocal in this room.
Yeah.
Like, and the bass on this track. And
Well,
the
so-
harmonica.
So who mixed it and mastered it for you? Was that different?
This was done by, oh my god, I can't think of his, it's Kyle. I'm sorry, I blanked. It's from Kyle
which-
from Cannibal Ramblers.
Oh,
So it was
okay.
actually, I was a big fan of Cannibal Ramblers, and my drummer at the time, Greg, his band, The Dead LA, had recorded with them. And I'd only seen them, and I didn't really know them.
Yeah.
But he introduced me to Kyle, and we kind of hit it off, and he really understood how to record my band. And I thought it was amazing because we did these two, like, my previous drummer ran Turbulent Studios, real professional recording studio.
Yeah.
That's why we were able to pump out so many albums in a short space of time. But this was done in almost the exact opposite fashion. We recorded the band tracks live in the basement here, and I did all the other stuff in this bedroom. And when I heard the digital, like, when I heard it on Bandcamp, I was like, wow, it sounds like a studio. And it kind of taught me,
Yeah.
like, that was actually how, like, I said to my brother, I was like, I need to put a name for the studio on the thing. What am I even going to call it? And he's like, well, my friends used to say this place was like the Waco Norton compound.
Because that's the thing about the lathe cut records. Now, plexiglass or not, you get a lathe cut record, even on vinyl. It's like it has a shelf life.
No,
like,
it's true.
You legitimately listen to it a few times, and it's just like, okay, I can't listen to it anymore.
I have a couple of 5-inch ones that are like, they're tiny.
Yeah.
And they don't even play on almost any system.
Weird.
And it's almost like, that's kind of the point. It's like you can't even listen to it. You pretty much just hold it.
Jesus.
5
okay.
inches. A
Yeah.
5-inch record.
Weird, man.
That was actually where I got the idea, though. I was like, I'll do a 7-inch like that.
Well, so to go back to, you were speaking about recording this, and the engineer, the mixing and mastering was done by...
Oh, Kyle from Cannibal Ramblers. They're
It
actually
sounds great.
playing a show... Because he moved. It was like his last recording project before he moved, but
Oh.
he's come back and done a couple of shows with them, and I'm pretty sure he's doing one
Yeah.
at dusk on the 24th.
I just saw the ad, yeah.
Which I definitely want to go to.
Cool.
But he's a really nice guy. he was definitely like a kindred spirit, and I think he was the first person who like heard us and really like, whoa, I understand. Like, I
Right.
know exactly what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, all right, finally.
That's great, man.
I definitely want to do like vinyl though. That's kind of like my next. It's part of why I've been doing 2 songs singles. Is like try to get somebody that'll put up money to pay for a 7-inch
Right.
or something like that.
I mean, that's kind of the weird part about that type of media is that it's like, it's so fragile. You know, any kind of needle that's gonna read that they're gonna be weird. You know,
Yeah.
different weights, different like thicknesses, whatever it is.
It's part of why I put like right on it. It says where you can listen to it online. 'Cause
Right.
It was kind of like the record is definitely a big thing for show, kind of.
Yeah,
And to have a record that's different than anybody else's.
looks totally cool, man.
Yeah, I still like it.
Hey, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming over.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was great. I've been fucking here in Norton, Mass. So weird. It's cool spot you're in though, man. I really like it, and I really appreciate you
fun.
having me. We're gonna try to do some golf now, go disc golf.
Frisbee golf.
Let's try it.
I swore I would come back for her. Wait for the son of Dracula.